Hello everybody and welcome back to another Mine-imator tutorial video. Today we are going to be going over camera angles. A lot of people have been asking for this and how to exactly work the camera. So I went ahead and added a character here and added the keyframe so I can start animating him. Now you'll notice there's two places you're going to see the camera. You're going to see it when you go to instances. It's going to be there, but it's going to be crossed out, and there's a little button up here. Either way, if you double click on this, just click on it once, the X goes away, and now you see the camera on the timeline. You can also click up here on and off to turn the camera on and off. Now, the camera is about the same as a character as far as animating goes. It needs keyframes, so it needs a starting keyframe, and then it needs multiple keyframes of places it needs to be. So just to start out, there's a couple camera features I wanted to go over. If you are clicking on a camera keyframe and you've got the options right here on the right, you're going to see a couple tabs here. You're going to see the rotate and move, and David actually had to explain this to me because I wasn't figuring it out, and I'll show that in a minute. You've got your overlay, your tempo, and your transition. Now, the instant transition is currently broken. A lot of people have been trying to use that, and they're wondering why, and that's because it's not working right now. So look for an update for that a little bit down the road. So cameras work the same way as characters technically. So when I have this first keyframe selected and I move the camera, wherever I stop that camera, that's where the camera is going to show. So with the second keyframe, if I move the camera behind him, this is now like an animation where it starts here and it needs to end up here by the time it gets to this part of the timeline. I'm actually going to move this out till it gives a second and a half. That's fine. And you're probably going to hear a lot of background noise today. Apologize for that. I've got my family upstairs working out. So let's show you this. So first we're going to keep rotate selected, and you're going to see, just watch. So press play, and it does kind of a half circle arc around him to get behind him. Now if I go ahead and select move and play this, it does a straight line and will swivel around. Straight line and swivel around. So that's the two different options as far as rotating and just moving. And I haven't actually tested this, so oops. Interesting. Let's try that one as rotate. Let's move it back in front. Okay. So this one rotates around. Okay, so each camera frame is specific, meaning this one I have move selected, and this one I have rotate selected. So on the first goes, okay, behind, and now it rotates around. So that's something cool. And something that David talked about in our interview was selecting multiple keyframes and editing their options. So we'll go ahead and add things here, and we'll add one more character. Make him a zombie. And let's move him over. Alright. So, say I wanted to edit both the zombie and Steve at the same time. I can go ahead and I can either control click these multiple keyframes, or I can click and drag a box to select all of them. And now when I have all of these keyframes selected, any option I change in this property menu will affect every keyframe and every character I have selected. So for example, if I go ahead and change the alpha down to where they're invisible, it changes it for both characters and for every keyframe. Now this works in a cool way where if I select the end keyframe on the zombie but the first keyframe of Steve, I'm still able to change the alpha. So Steve will be gone at the beginning, but the zombie will be gone at the end. So that's just a cool little tip for editing multiple keyframes. And as far as copying keyframes, that will be in the instances, but we are not going over that this video. So back to cameras. One thing you're going to want to make sure you don't do is, let's go ahead and just delete these. When you've got the camera on the timeline and you've got keyframes and things like that, you're going to want to make sure you only have the camera timeline on when you are making camera angles, meaning if I make my two angles here and this one is supposed to end up behind, and then I say, well, you know, I want to look at a building over here I added, or let's add something over here, and then okay, and I keep animating. When I come back and press play, I actually moved that camera angle. So once you get your camera angles solidified on where you want them to be, go ahead and just turn the camera timeline off, and now anytime you fly around, it's not editing the camera angles. And in order to actually see the camera angles, when you hit play, you have to have the camera timeline on. So those are just a couple small things. Now let's turn this back on. Let's go over the different options here. Now you've got overlay. This is a color overlay. Let's go ahead. So for this one right here, let's make it turn to orange, and we'll turn up the alpha to about there. So if I press play, you can see now I'm getting some jumpiness, and I think it might just be the move function, but I don't think the overlay system is quite set in stone. As you can see, it's a little bit jumpy, not working as well as probably it should, but this is a beta version, so there are bugs in the system. So that's the overlay as far as the camera goes. Now the tempo is something also very useful. Let's actually go ahead and turn off that overlay. The tempo, if you see up here, this is your overall tempo for the whole video. So the whole video plays in the speed of 8. But let's say, let's actually turn this one around back here, turn off the alpha. So let's just show this real quick. It's just kind of a rotating around Steve camera. Pretty cool. Now let's say I want it to keep that speed, but as it hits the back of him, I actually want it to slow down. But, you know, if I slow down the tempo here or speed it up, this speeds it up for the whole thing. Now, let's say I have it, let's put it at 20. 24 is fine. And so this is a fast rotation. Now let's say I just want it to slow down here in the middle. If I go ahead and select this middle camera angle, I go to the tempo, and let's turn it down to 7%. So I start, and then it slows down and speeds back up. So the way it works is this is at 100% speed, this is at 7% speed, this is at 100% speed. So as it comes along here, it knows by the time it gets to this camera frame, it needs to have slowed down from 100 to 7. And once it passes this one, it knows it needs to speed up back to 100%. So that's how you get that slowing motion in the camera all with the tempo. And now, yeah, sorry, I was just going to explain something, but it doesn't need to be explained. So there's that. There's the tempo. That's a really nice feature for your slow-mo moments, or even for speeding it up. If we just want to switch that around, let's change this tempo down to 7. You can actually do manual input on this. Down to, not 0.7. I'm used to. Alright, 7. Well, come on now. Manual input, 7. Okay, fine, don't work. Okay, 7. And then let's speed this one back up to 100. So it's actually going to be the opposite effect. It's going to slow down, speed up, and slow down. So that's kind of a cool feature. Now let's say we want to, as you can see, my third camera angle here is a little bit further out. So if I go ahead and click this first camera angle, oh, I guess you can't do it. Never mind. My mistake. That's a different feature I will talk about later. I just seem to be doing that a lot in this video. Anyway, let's get to transitions. So as I said, the instant transition is currently not working in beta 0.5.1. These camera angles, these transitions, well, let's try one out and see if we can test the difference. So that one says ease in. Okay, so that was a big difference. So let's go ahead and change this back to linear and see. Yeah, so it does ease in, meaning it eases in a little bit slower at the beginning, as you can see. It starts out slow and then speeds up even more. It eases into its speed and movement. Now let's go ahead and go to ease out. This actually speeds it up. You can go ease in and out. Press play. It does a speed, slow, and then speed up. So those are your transitions. Linear just is kind of, it does exactly what it needs to do. And instant, technically, if it did work, this camera angle at the beginning, if I put instant here, it would play on the time. Oops. It would play on the timeline, but the camera would not move. And once it hit this camera frame, it would instantly be there. Oh, did that just work? Maybe it did work. Let's find out. Now I did slow down the tempo, so it takes a minute for it to get there. I thought David said this wasn't working, but maybe it is. Oh, it does work. Well, there you go. The instant camera. Maybe it was just 0.5 it wasn't working. So, yeah, there you go. Let me speed this up so you can see. So by setting instant at the camera frame before the one where it's a new position, it holds the camera frame and then instantly goes back. So if you don't want to worry about, if you don't want to have that movement of the camera coming in behind him, you just put instant on the keyframe before the one of the new position, if this is making sense at all, and it holds its position, and when it hits the second one, it goes instant. So let's actually try this. Let's make this one an instant as well, meaning it'll we'll just see if this is working how I think it's going to. So it goes bump, bump. Yeah. So it's just switching back and forth. It's a good feature if you don't want to have the moving camera, if you're just jumping back and forth between things and you don't need the camera flying in between. Alright, so I think that's about it for the camera. You've got your move function, you've got your rotate function. You can put a color over it it works but still a little bit glitchy. You can change the tempo of individual camera frames and the transition. You can do an ease in where it kind of goes slow and then speeds up, an ease out where it starts fast and slows down, or an ease in, ease out where it goes slow and then speeds up, or an instant as I just have shown. And to turn the camera timeline on and off up here at the top, or here in the instance box, you can click this little red X and you'll see it come on and off. So that is the camera, and that is how to use it. And one more quick point. As far as keeping the camera smooth, I went over having smooth animations in a previous video. The camera works the same way. Let's say I want to make it so the camera rotates around, and I decided to use 3 keyframes to rotate behind him instead of 1. Let's see how this looks. See if I can get the effect I'm going for. Oops, it's still on instant. We'll just put that on linear, that on linear, and that's on linear. So let's press play. Yeah. Oh, and we still have our speeds. That one's at 100, that one's at 100, that one's at 7. And let's slow this down. Alright, play. So you can see on... Oh, do I still have ease in on one of these? Oh, I don't know. You can see when it hits this in-between camera angle, it kind of like it hits something. It kind of goes boink and hits. And, you know, oh, I know what's doing it, because You'll notice when I hit that middle camera angle, it kind of like it almost hits a bump or something, and it gets choppy. But if I just stop, delete this, it's smooth. It's completely smooth. So be smart with your rotate and move camera angles, and you're gonna keep a smooth camera instead of a jumpy, bumpy one. So those are my tips today for the camera angle. If you're still having troubles, just try rewatching the video, pause, take notes, things like that. And then if you still can't figure out, leave it in the comments below. I will be working on I am working on a tutorial on adding custom items, as far as just, I don't want to spoil it, but just custom items, and then we'll go more in depth on adding items, blocks, sceneries, and lights. Um, any more questions or requested videos, go ahead and leave those in the comments below. The download will be in the description below as well if you don't already have Mine-imator. And yeah, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for watching. This is Ski Dude, and I'll catch you guys later.